and thank you very much for joining us for yet another edition of Leveraging Artificial Intelligence for Organizational Strategy here on Amoge Radio Communications this beautiful last Monday of November 2025. I remain your host, Tolu Omodara, saying, welcome. How have you been? Hope you had a great weekend. We're glad, we're grateful. We're honored to have you with us on ARC again. And we are going to begin, as we always do, with recap from last week's episode of the program. And again, as we always say, please, if you're yet to subscribe, kindly subscribe to Amoge Radio Communications YouTube page. There is a plethora of high-level, high-quality, broad-ranging information, guides, I don't even want to say tips because it goes beyond tips. They're practically, models, right, on different kinds of issues from public health management to geopolitical issues to strategy to organizational management, developing high-performing teams, talent attraction and retention. There's, there's so much information that you cannot afford not to subscribe to Amoge Radio Communications. Please subscribe to Amoge Radio Communications and encourage your team members to do so as well. And if you have subscribed, continue to revisit some of these things that we discuss, especially if they are pertinent to where you are currently in your organizational evolution. Once again, you're very welcome to the 7th episode of Leveraging Artificial Intelligence for Organizational Strategy on Amoge Radio Communications. So last week, we were looking at using artificial intelligence for service innovation, having looked at using artificial intelligence for innovation broadly 2 weeks before and 3 weeks before last week. So last week we focused on using artificial intelligence for service innovation, right? As different from product innovation. And we said that AI, artificial intelligence, is about getting robots to behave in a manner which, mirrors human intelligence. I'll say that again. Artificial intelligence is about getting robots to behave in a manner which mimics human intelligence. So, artificial intelligence for service innovation is about asking how can we get these machines to think like human beings, and how do we get these machines to suggest newer models of service offering. Of course, that's not exhaustive, but that's one of the ways in which you want to use artificial intelligence for service innovation, right? We also talked about the need to understand that at a point in the service industry, there's only so much differentiation that can come from, for instance, structure or the kind of machines that are used in that particular industry. At a point, what differentiates its service, hospitality industry, for instance, we give an example of healthcare industry and how these the healthcare industry, the finance industry have used artificial intelligence to, reinvent service, right? We give the example of AI enablement for healthcare innovation and how there's more personalized patient care and even more effective and accurate prognostic diagnosis, right? When you are able to customize the patient's peculiarities, you are more likely to have not just an effective diagnosis, a more accurate diagnosis based on the peculiarities of the patient, but you're also more likely to be able to provide, highly personalized healthcare services that can make the difference, sometimes between life and death for different patients. So that was one example we gave. We also talked about the finance industry, right? Where, for instance, things like fraud analytics can be very predictive of success or failure, right? Whether or not a finance service organization succeeds or fails can be largely tied to how effectively it assesses risks, right? And artificial intelligence can use very unstructured data, bringing pattern recognition to it, using natural language processing, deep learning, and so on and so forth. Artificial intelligence can use this very unstructured data to bring some kind of template to the massive information available from Internet of Things, through social media, customer feedback, even regulators, communication, and all kinds of data sources. Artificial intelligence can take this seemingly unconnected data sources and begin to create a pattern. Using natural language processing and its other capabilities can bring some structure to this unstructured, mass data, right? And then once it can do that, you can then begin to enhance the accuracy of fraud assessment, fraud analytics, and all of this can enhance confidence, can increase confidence in the financial service offering, amongst other benefits, right? So these are just two examples. A lot of things, of course, can flow from this within the peculiarities of each sector, right? In other words, how you translate this based on your sector, your industry, your organization, the phase of your development will differ from context to context. But one thing is clear, right? The feedback that you get from your customers, regardless of the sector that you are in, can come in a very unstructured manner because, you know, in today's world, they come from multiple sources, a lot of sources of information or channels of information that either weren't connected, right? When I say connected, could not easily be transcribed into soft form. These days are uploaded. In fact, sometimes they don't even have to be uploaded. Some are uploaded, some are straight on, more or less imputed into simultaneous data centers, right? Data centers that are operating simultaneously and globally, right? So there's a lot of there are tons of information, and there's a lot of insights that you can get based on the feedback that customers are given. Now, of course, we've said it and we'll say it again, this feedback often comes in a very unstructured manner. However, artificial intelligence can help you bring some structure to this massive data, right? This mess of mass data, if I can put it that way. It's mass data and it comes in some form of mess because there's no structure to it. Now, artificial intelligence using capabilities such as natural language processing can help you to begin to program algorithms that identify service gaps or met service expectations, right? And when you can identify, especially when they are recurring, right? When these are recurring in customers' feedback, customers' complaints across demographics, and so on and so forth, then you can begin to identify the opportunities for service innovation, right? So we're going to stop there in terms of the recap of some of the things we shared last week. Like we always encourage you, please go to Amage Radio Communications YouTube page, listen to last week's episode again, even if you think you have listened to it before. Listen to it with the intent of identifying what exactly is relevant to your organization in this current phase of its service evolution. Well, this remains Tolu Omodara here on Amage Radio Communications. Thank you very much again for joining us for yet another episode of Leveraging Artificial Intelligence for Organizational Strategy. Now, today we are going to be looking at a slightly, I don't want to say a wholly different topic because it's still connected to what we have been saying, but a significantly different topic, right? That is reinventing your business for AI optimization. I'm going to say that again. Reinventing your business for AI optimization. And as a rider, we are saying managing the ensuing change. Well, that's a lot. Let me take that topic again. Reinventing your business for AI optimization, managing the ensuing change. Now, let me tell you one of the things that you have to be ready for. In today's world, a lot of the organizations that we manage today, they are essentially other organizations trying to speak the tech language, trying to fit into the tech world. So you have, for instance, I gave the example of finance. So you have finance organizations, financial sector organizations, leveraging artificial intelligence for organizational strategy. I gave the example of healthcare, right? Healthcare organizations trying to, ensure that they are optimizing artificial intelligence. You have, for instance, even education sector organizations trying to ensure that they find the balance between using artificial intelligence to enable students learning and ensuring that students have not stopped thinking because they now have access to artificial intelligence, right? So in short, a lot of organizations today are still essentially domiciled in their home industry, so to say, whether it is healthcare or hospitality or finance or education and so on and so forth, right? So they've remained domiciled in their sectors and they're trying to ensure that they are still relevant in a world that has become essentially technologically driven, right? Now, for some organizations that are bold and capable, please take note of that word, that are bold and capable, believe me, they are going to make an entire transition. I'll say that again. For some organizations that have the the courage, the leadership courage, and also have the change management capabilities, they are actually going to completely relocate from their home industries, their previous home sectors, right? And they are going to become tech companies now doing hospitality. They're going to become tech companies now doing healthcare. They're going to become tech companies now doing education. Just sometimes say, let me give the example of education, for instance. I know some companies today that are essentially tech companies doing education. They run learning management systems. They now teach online. They have interactions online. Like I know somebody who got a certificate in the United States in I think some kind of nursing program, and she had zero interaction with human beings. It was tech from beginning to the end, and it was a 2-year course. And she came out effectively trained for that industry. Believe me, I would no longer describe that institution she went to as your quote-unquote typical educational sector institution. I would say that is now a tech institution operating in the education industry. I hope I'm making sense, right? Now, I'm not saying that, and please be very diligent in hearing me through. Not every organization, I'm emphasizing this, is going to have, one, the leadership courage to make this transition. Number two, not every organization is also going to have the change management capabilities, because a lot goes into this. It's not going to happen overnight, but for the organizations that can make that transition, I dare say that you should consider reinventing your business for artificial intelligence optimization. Completely reinvent your business. Your business model must be entirely transformed, right? You may no longer be, for instance, a financial services organization. You may now be a technological organization, a tech organization providing finance services. How do you do this? And how do you manage the ensuing change? Well, let's take the example of one organization that is doing that relatively well, right? So Walmart is currently the world's largest company by revenue, right? And Walmart, by the way, was founded in 1962, and that's about, I think, about 63 years ago. Right, Walmart was founded in 1962, so you can't say, we've been existing for a long time. I think 1962 till now is still a relatively a long time, right? However, as of today, this 63-year-old company has, if you ask me, managed to reinvent itself from a retail services organization, an organization that provides retail services, right, to an organization that is probably largely tech-driven. I'm not saying it has made the transition completely, but it has made significant progress in reinventing itself as a tech-driven organization, a tech organization playing in the retail market. Now, let's look at what has happened. Right, what have been the outcomes of that? Right, how has this empowered Walmart? What impact has it had in Walmart? By the way, Walmart is also the largest private employer in the entire world, with over 2.1 million employees. And of course, there are implications for those employees as Walmart reinvents itself. But that's not the conversation for. That's not the full conversation today. We are going to allude to that when we come to managing the ensuing change. Remember, today's program or today's episode is two-pronged, right? The first part of the episode is what we are focusing on, and then we will definitely reference the other part. Reinventing your business for AI optimization is the first part, and the latter part is managing the ensuing change. So as part of managing the ensuing change, part of the valid questions that are coming up is, what is the impact of AI on workers' security? That question is coming up a lot, especially in places like the United States. So that conversation about how exactly do we manage the impact of artificial intelligence on workers, right? For instance, is set to be a key determinant of perhaps even the political direction, right, from 2026 and beyond. in the United States. There are concerns as to the jobs that AI is taking, from workers. There are concerns about workers' rights, and as we speak, I think one of a think tank launched by allies of President Donald Trump in the U.S. is set to, I think, launch an initiative today, and they are calling it the American First Policy Initiative, right? So this initiative, for instance, is set to be defending the rights of workers while simultaneously ensuring that companies are not over-regulated. That's companies that have to do with artificial intelligence. Now, I'm not going into the politics of it. I'm still coming back to the issue of Walmart that I was discussing. What is important to note is that as part of managing the ensuing change, when you are reinventing yourself as an organization, you definitely have to understand the nuances, which include concerns about workers' rights, because as it is, even though the jobs have not yet been taken over by artificial intelligence, right? Economists say that there aren't yet any strong signs that artificial intelligence is, driving widespread layoffs, right? For instance, there was an October study from the Yale Budget Lab Fund, right? And he said there have been no discernible disruptions. According to this October study from the Yale Budget Lab Fund, there have been no discernible disruptions to the broader labor market since the 2022 launch of ChatGPT. That's what this October study by the Yale Budget Lab Fund is saying. However, while this is going on, there have also been several reports indicating that young graduates between ages 22 and 27 are having lower jobs upon graduation. This is now becoming almost the norm. I'll give you a simple example, right? The kind of jobs that a young graduate would do before, maybe a young graduate would come in, take notes, and so on and so forth, is being taken over by AI tools, right? If I go on Zoom now, there's an AI assistant that takes my notes for me, and I simply have to edit it. So a lot of things that they used to do in the early phases of their careers are being taken over by artificial intelligence. Now, what is the solution? What's the midpoint? Are we going to stop developing? No, humanity cannot stop. AI is here to stay. Part of the solutions like this policy initiative I was referencing, now I'm neither for nor against, I'm just saying part of the thinking from a policy point of view is to upskill workers. That's a conversation that has been on, and I think is still going to keep going on, right? How do we upskill workers or even reskill workers? I like it. Sometimes you don't necessarily have to upskill workers, but you have to reskill them. You have to give them new skills, right? And this is part of the change management. Remember, we said there are two parts to this conversation. The first part is reinventing yourself as an organization, like Walmart is taking the leap. And after reinventing yourself as an organization, you also have to manage the ensuing change. Very, very important, because there's a critical change management element. You must have the boldness, the leadership to reinvent yourself as an organization. If you're going to be one of the organizations that would, make that leap, make that switch from your previous home industry to another or a version of yourself, right? A newer version of yourself that is more of a tech company now functioning as one of the retail services providers like Walmart is doing, right? So you must have not just the leadership courage to make the transition, you must also have the capabilities for effective change management, especially if you're an organization as large as Walmart, employing over 2 million employees worldwide and all over the United States, including 27 countries outside of the United States. But let's come to what has been the impact of this transition, this reinvention on Walmart, right? I'll just give you one or two comparisons. So Walmart, of course, plays in the retail industry in the United States. And then in this industry, as a retail supermarket, let's compare Walmart to two of its competitors. One of it is Target, right? Target recently shared their third quarter results, right? I think it was last Wednesday, and sales fell by 1.5% year on year. Sales fell by 1.5% year on year in Target, right? Based on their third quarter results, right? But in this same environment, because it's easy to say, oh, this is due to the tariffs that Trump has slammed. Of course, that has had an impact, right? Generally on the economy, right? The cost of suppliers have been higher. But Walmart has weathered that same storm. And in that same period, instead of reporting the loss, Walmart has actually had, the expectation when Walmart gives his own report is expected that Walmart will have a revenue increase, I think, of 4.6%, while Target is reporting a 1.5% increase in sales. Walmart is actually expected to report a 4.6% increase. So they expect a revenue of up to $177 billion. That's up to 4.6% increase within the same environment of business. And it is being hypothesized that this is due to Walmart's ability to reinvent itself. Instead of just being a player in the retail industry, it's now reinventing itself as a tech organization operating in the retail industry. I hope I'm making sense. Well, we're going to take a quick break. Remember, this is still leveraging artificial intelligence for organizational strategy here on Amoge Radio Communications. I remain your host, Tolu Omodara, warmly, delightedly, gladly reviewing or having this conversation inviting you on this journey to consider the possibility of reinventing yourself for AI optimization and managing the ICR chain. We'll be right back after this break. Thank you.
Harmogate, founded in 2008 out of a desire to build transgenerational structures for organizations, institutions, and nations. We have worked with large businesses, international development organizations, and public sector ministries and agencies. Harmogate, our uniqueness is that we do not just work for you, we work with you. For example, we do not leave you to the task after sourcing talent that will help the new hire settle into robust leadership development programs. We are technical experts in advising and supporting institutions on strategy and leadership, artificial intelligence, strategic human resource management, public sector reform, finance, audit and tax, FAT, and strategic communications. We do all this and more out of a desire to transform nations through institutions and organizations. For further inquiries, email contact@thearmogate.org or call +234 810 999 6666, +234 807 957 4151, and +161 0504 6026. www.thearmogate.org. Armogate, building to endure and transforming nations through institutions and organizations.
You're welcome back. I'm glad, happy, excited to have you back and reinvent yourself as a tech organization in your domicile industry, right? It's important. We're looking at the example of Walmart. So again, I want to go back to the comparison of Walmart. I was talking about how Walmart has had a 4.6% increase in revenue in the same year as based on its third quarter revenue expectations, 4.6% increase year on year, and is expected to have $177 billion in revenue as compared with its competitor, one of its top competitors, Target, which is said to have actually declined in sales by 1.5%. So you may want to argue, I think at the beginning of the year, there was a challenge in terms of DEI initiatives, and there was a massive, walkout on Target by some customers who were protesting Target's, succumbing to the Trump administration's hard stance on DEI initiatives. DEI there, of course, standing for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So you might say, oh, this is the reason why Target is having a 1.5% decrease in sales as a third quarter result. Now, this may be a contributory factor, but I decided to take another example, right, within the same industry. This is Home Depot. Home Depot didn't have the walkouts that Target had by its customers, right, or by some of its customers protesting Target's, adoption of President Donald Trump's anti-DEI stance, right? But Home Depot still missed its profit expectation. At least they can't say, oh, it's because of the walkout by customers. Home Depot still missed its profit expectations, citing tariff uncertainty and softer demand for big ticket home purchases. Now, I don't really think that this environment is going to change. we've been saying on this program that part of why you need to be strategic is that we operate in a highly unpredictable environment. We keep talking about the VUCA factor. It's volatile, it's uncertain, it's complex, and it's ambiguous, right? Anytime you talk about strategy, and like I've said severally, I'm not going to go over all the things that we already have covered on our previous programs on strategy. If you go on Amoge Radio Communications, I did a whole quarter on roadmap to organizational strategy. You can listen to several episodes of that. It was a whole quarter. But one of the things you have to understand is that in strategy, there are two factors. There are external factors and there are internal factors. The external factors will largely remain outside of your scope of control. You cannot influence to a large extent what the president does with tariffs, right? You cannot influence, for instance, the war in the Middle East. You cannot influence, for instance, what is going to happen maybe in Europe, right? Now that they are probably going to be responding to President Donald Trump's pressure on Ukraine to accept Russia's quote unquote peace. I'm saying quote unquote because it's been controversial, but quote unquote peace talk conditions. So you cannot influence a lot of things that have impact on your sales, right? They have impact on demand, they have impact on money supply in the market, they have impact on foreign exchange, they have impact on even labor, right? A lot of things you cannot influence. Those are the external factors. That's why we talk about the SWOT model: strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The opportunities and threats are largely external, and you have next to nil control over that. However, you can significantly position yourself as an organization based on your strengths and weaknesses to navigate the challenges and to take full advantages of the opportunities. I'm going to say that again. From a strategic point of view, you have to know that to a very large extent, you cannot significantly change what is going to happen externally in terms of the opportunities and threats in the SWOT strategy model. But you can do a lot with your internal factors, your strengths and weaknesses to ensure that you are positioning yourself against the external shocks and also doing same with regards to the opportunities that are coming externally in order to ensure that you can take full advantage of them. How does this relate to reinventing yourself as a tech organization if you have the boldness, the leadership, the capabilities to make that transition and manage the ensuing change, right? There is one thing that Walmart is doing. Walmart is ensuring that when their customers, right, both previous and also potential customers that are now becoming their present customers, when they see Walmart, they no longer see a Walmart company. They no longer see a retail services company, beg your pardon, right? They no longer see a retail supermarket provider. The first thing they see is shop online now. Walmart is repositioning itself more as an online store than as a brick and mortar store. And that transition has been very helpful in ensuring that they more or less hedge themselves against the risks that have come with all the uncertainties in the market. So like I said, Home Depot is facing the same tariff issues that Walmart is facing. Walmart is largely operating in the same United States that Home Depot is operating in. But because Walmart has reinvented itself as a tech organization, it has been able to use artificial intelligence capabilities and technological tools to ensure that it can, mitigate against the impact of uncontrollable factors like increase in tariffs. As a matter of fact, part of what Walmart has done by reinventing itself as a tech organization that provides retail supermarket services, so to say, part of what Walmart has been said to have done is that it has actually transferred those costs, right? Those tariff costs. Why? Because customers are happy, to have them provide them their for instance, their orders at home, for minimize the need to make the trips to the physical store. For instance, they're able to make deliveries and all of those other advantages that come with leveraging artificial intelligence specifically and technology generally, leveraging it more effectively. So with that, customers don't even mind the cost. They've transferred the cost almost invisibly, so to say. And Walmart is doing this quietly but consistently. So you really have to think about this as an organization. How exactly may you and will you be willing to reinvent yourself, right? I'm saying may you first. You have to identify the gaps in the market. The customer's requirements, the customer's unmet needs, either from a product point of view or from a service point of view, or both. Look at all those gaps, right? And when you have been able to identify all those gaps, begin to ask yourself, is this an opportunity to reinvent ourselves as a tech organization operating in our previous home industry, rather than remaining a primary retail services provider, for instance, that is just trying to use tech? Wow. I want to talk a little bit about managing the ensuing change. Like I said, I had referred to a couple of things before, and we're not going deep into that, but let me just refer to some of the things that you must be ready to manage if you are ready to take this leap, or if you are considering taking this leap. One, there is a lot that has to do with equipping your current employees, especially those that you want to keep. The truth of the matter is that already there are major changes, right? Much as is claiming that there have been there's been minimal or nil impact on the jobs market. Like I said, the truth is that there is some form of impact already that is being noticed, right, in terms of jobs. For instance, Amazon slashed thousands of jobs. Microsoft did same, and this is an occurring trend. In fact, CEOs are now said to be under pressure by their boards to, slash the jobs, and by so doing, slash the costs, right? Because the question is, before you add jobs and before you add job roles and before you do more headcount, I need you to show me that artificial intelligence cannot do what you are hiring the human being to do. So this is a fact as of today. So there is very likely, and I'm using that word very knowingly, there is very likely to be an impact on things like employees. Sometimes you may have to let some roles go. Sometimes you have to restructure. You have to look at your organizational structure in view of that new strategy. If the new organizational strategy is to reinvent yourself as a tech company operating in that industry, right, in your previous home industry, you may need to restructure. You are very likely going to need to create a new organizational structure. Some roles will have to be merged. Some roles will have to be completely taken away. Some roles will even have to be created, right? Probably you didn't have a chief of artificial intelligence role before. You just had a chief information officer role, right? A chief IT officer role. You may actually need to create a specific chief artificial intelligence officer role, and that's just an example at the highest level. At lower levels, you may also need to have roles like change transition manager and so on and so forth. So you also have to think of the organizational structure. Is there going to be a new structure as a result of that transition, as a result of that attempt to make that reinvention? So that's one of the areas. Number two, you also have to look at equipping your people, the people who are retained, right, may also need to be retrained. So it's not just about retaining, it's also about retraining. Now, let me quickly say here that this is one of our strengths in Amogate. We can help you with organizational strategy. We can help you with organizational re-strategizing. We can help you with reinventing yourself. We can also help you even with the restructuring of the organization to suit the new strategy, because like we always say in Amogate, the structure should follow the strategy and not the other way around. We can also help you with retraining those that you choose to retain. We can help you with competency audits, culture audits, to identify those that you need to retain, those you need to retrain, and those that you may actually need to release. These are our strength, our proven institutional competence. We've done this severally, and we are very good at what we do by the grace of God. But these are the things you have to consider, right? How do you such that by the time you are done, you will have silently but effectively transformed and reinvented yourself from, for instance, the services industry, a financial services organization, beg your pardon, to a tech organization now operating in the financial services industry. Wow. I think this is where we are going to stop on today's edition of the program. The topic has been reinventing your organization for artificial intelligence optimization. I repeat, reinventing your organization for artificial intelligence optimization. And the subtopic has been managing the ensuing change. Wow. I need to let you know that we very much look forward to getting your feedback. You are the reason why you do this. We cannot wait to hear back from you. Please send us a message, contact@theamogate.org. Check us out on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. Please let us know what you think about this. Ask us questions. And like I said, we are always ready to support you in implementing this. We are not just talkers, we are doers. We can help you move from conceptualization to implementation all the way to reinvention. This has been very awesome, interesting, delightful. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for being here. Remember, your feedback matters a lot to us. You are the reason why we do is ask us questions, and we'll provide practical and implementable, actionable answers on how you can reinvent yourself reinvent your organization for artificial intelligence optimization. I remain your host, Tolu Omodara, reminding you that other great programs will be on from Tuesday all the way to Friday. We continue to enjoy doing this. You are the reason why we do this, and we look forward to supporting you with our broad range of highly unique and very versatile expertise, that have been tested and proven for close to 2 decades of existence. You can check out our website, www.theamogate.org. You can send us an email, contact@theamogate.org. You can reach us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We look forward to hearing from you, and we also look forward to working with you to make these important changes that are necessary to stay relevant, current, profitable, and sustainable in the 21st century reality. I'll be back same time, same station next week by God's grace. Until then, remember to take good care of yourself. For those of us in the United States, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your time with family. And when we see you again, it will be a happy new month next Monday. Thank you so much. And then see you same time, same station next week. Take care of yourselves, and God bless you. Have a good one.